Every continent on Earth has borders, except one. No country owns it, no military can claim it, and even today, access is not yours to decide. During the height of the Cold War, when nations fought over everything, they put their greed on hold here. Not because it was empty, but because something about it demanded restraint. So the question isn't what lies beyond the ice, it's why humanity chose, for once, to look away. Imagine a landmass larger than Europe, locked in eternal winter, where the wind carries across thousands of miles of ice, with nothing to interrupt it. This is Antarctica, the only continent without borders, and one of the most controlled and regulated places on Earth. Welcome to Beyond the Bell. Today, we travel to the southern edge of the world map to examine the treaty that froze exploration, the early maps that still refuse to stay quiet, and the strange moment in history when rival powers chose cooperation over possession. We'll separate what is known from what is assumed, and ask why this supposedly desolate, empty place requires more rules and restrictions than anywhere else on Earth. December 1959, at the height of the Cold War mistrust, 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty. They agreed to no military bases, no nuclear testing, to enforce no territorial claims. Antarctica would belong to no one and only be used for scientific and peaceful reasons. Today, 58 countries are party to the treaty. Mining, by agreement, is banned until at least 2048. Many regions require permits to enter. Environmental impact assessments are mandatory. Inspections can be requested by any authority at any time. History called this a triumph of cooperation, a rare moment where the world's powers paused instead of racing forward. And it's not simply ice that lies beneath that pause. Antarctica is believed to contain significant mineral deposits, vast freshwater reserves, and potential oil and natural gas fields offshore. In 1991, nations agreed to extend the treaty framework with an environmental protocol banning mineral exploitation, a ban that will also be reviewed in 2048. So at a time when nations were fighting over every scrap, oil, land and airspace, why did everyone agree to seal this one continent away in neutrality?
They called it protection. From what? Penguins or questions?
You think it's about secrecy?
I think curiosity is rarely convenient.
While Antarctica is not officially closed to aircraft, commercial overflights are very rare. The reasons, they say, are practical: extreme weather. Antarctic winds can exceed 100 miles per hour, temperatures that dip so low they can shut down engines, and almost nowhere to land in an emergency. Research aircraft do cross the interior. Sightseeing flights skim the coast. Satellites map the ice in extraordinary detail. There are no visible cities, no ruins, no structures hiding in the snow. What does exist are subglacial lakes, hundreds of them, sealed beneath miles of treacherous ice, geothermal heat, rivers flowing uphill under immense pressure, rising from total darkness. The dangers explain the risks, but they don't explain the extreme restrictions. In the early 20th century, one name loomed larger than any other: Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd. Admiral Byrd was a career US Navy officer, a World War I veteran, and one of the most senior and decorated explorers in the Navy's history. Between the 1920s and 30s, Byrd mapped vast regions of Antarctica. Then, in 1946, came Operation Highjump. 4,700 men, ships and aircraft, the largest Antarctic exploration expedition ever launched. Funded by the US Navy, officially it was about mapping the region and cold weather training. The mission ended early, blamed on the weather. Byrd later spoke in interviews of lands beyond the pole, meaning unexplored regions that had yet to be mapped. In the decades that followed, these words were pulled out of context. Stories began to circulate of his supposed lost diaries, rediscovered, of hidden bases in Antarctica, even alleged encounters with extraterrestrials. None of these claims originated with Byrd himself. His extensive, authentic journals were carefully archived. The so-called lost diaries appeared years after his death and are widely regarded as forgeries. What's revealing isn't what Byrd claimed, it's how others interpreted it. None of it holds up, but one question remains uncomfortably quiet. Why, immediately after World War II, did the world's most powerful military rush to survey so much frozen nothing?
Ambition often hides behind exploration, even when the map looks empty. Here, nature doesn't just conceal, it erases.
Antarctica was officially first sighted in 1820, but long before that, cartographers kept drawing something in the south. They called it Terra Australis, the southern land. Maps from the 16th century onward show a continent at the bottom of the world, before anyone had discovered it. Not just a vague suggestion, but with fully mapped coastlines, with rivers and mountains. In 1513, the Piri Reis map depicted a southern coastline with surprising confidence. In 1531, Orontius Phineas placed a detailed landmass at the pole itself. In 1739, Philip Bausch drew southern lands with detailed features, although he labelled them as hypothetical. Mainstream historians offer straightforward explanations. Early cartographers often extended their maps beyond known coastlines, filling in incomplete data to create a sense of completion. For centuries, geographers inherited an ancient Greek philosophical idea that a vast southern land must exist to balance the known continents of the north. Projection distortions may also have stretched the southern tip of South America into something larger than it was, warping it at the edge of the map. When modern scholars compare these early maps to Antarctica's actual sub-ice landscape, no precise geographic match appears. And yet, why did mapmakers across centuries, working independently of each other, keep drawing the same impossible southern coastline if it wasn't discovered until the early 1800s? What was it that convinced them that something existed there?
Some drew what they believed should exist. Others drew to fill the silence. Or perhaps they drew what they were told.
Long before Antarctica appeared on maps, the edges of the world were already filled with imagination. Plato, writing in the 4th century BCE, placed Atlantis beyond his then known world, outside the boundaries of Greek geography, beyond their known map. Across history, lost civilizations are often relocated to unreachable places. Beyond the horizon, beneath the sea, frozen wastes. Antarctica fits that same pattern. not as evidence of Atlantis, but as the modern frontier onto which uncertainty is projected. When parts of the past feel unresolved, it becomes easier to imagine them buried, somewhere distant and difficult to access. If something once existed that we no longer understand, placing them in a location almost impossible to verify keeps them safely beyond scrutiny.
Every generation hides its unwanted facts. We're better to hide an inconvenient past than in an inconvenient location.
Beneath Antarctica's ice lie ancient and prehistoric landscapes. Mountains, valleys, lakes that have been sealed for millions of years. Ice cores extracted from the continent record Earth's violent climate shifts, rapid changes, moments when the environment turned abruptly and behaved in ways no one expected. The Antarctic Treaty still holds, for now. But in 2048, restrictions on resources are scheduled for review, and the question returns: why is this the one place on Earth where humanity chose restraint? We have mapped the moon in greater detail than these frozen depths. Antarctica remains largely silent apart from the freezing winds, not empty perhaps, but sealed. And in that silence, an old familiar pattern repeats itself. Knowledge buried, access limited, questions deferred, not necessarily hidden, but postponed. This video took a lot of time and research to put together, so if you enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing and sharing. It really helps the channel grow and allows us to bring more content like this your way. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.